We're going to get a response now to an advisor to the government in Ukraine. His name is Victor Andrusiv. He's advisor to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Mr. Andrusiv, thank you very much indeed for your time. We all hold our breath, as I'm sure you do. We hear there are more peace talks between Russia and Ukraine today. What would your overview of that be, or how hopeful can any of us be over that?
Well, we don't expect much from the peaceful talks. What we do really expect is that that they could allow people to be evacuated from the cities which are besieged, and because we have a huge humanitarian catastrophe in Mariupol. But the problem is that Russians actually don't want to give us possibility to evacuate people and bring some humanitarian aid, because humanitarian crisis they created is a part of their strategy. They want to make a pressure on us with these humanitarian problems. So that is why normally they refuse from many green corridors and other things from the city with the big problems. In Mariupol, already 2,200 civilians died, and they are in very bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. And I just want to ask you, why do you think it is that some humanitarian corridors have been honoured and respected by the Russians, and then the one of Mariupol has just been impossible to get those civilians out? Is it deliberate, do you think, or is it just a sign of chaos within the Russian military?
No, it's very easy to explain. They allow corridors in the cities which are not encircled by them. Which are not besieged by them. So if they didn't capture the city, they allowed to have a green corridor because they do not control all the roads to the city. When the city is already besieged by them, they do not allow any corridors, because they make a pressure with this humanitarian crisis on the people who are in defense of the city.
Mr. Andrusiv, it seems to be coming clear to us watching the conflict that information and journalism is a big casualty of this war. Why do you think the Russians, they seem to be deliberately targeting media? What's your theory with that?
Well, normally they are killing any civilians they meet. They do a lot of looting and other things. The problem is that Russians expected to capture Ukraine in 3 days, and now they are running out of any resources, of food, of anything. And also when they meet anybody on the road, they think that this person will address the location to our artillery. That's why they normally kill everybody they meet on the way. So they don't care of journalists, of the Red Cross. I would say even more, they attack cars with the Red Cross, because, as I said, this is a part of the strategy to create more humanitarian catastrophes. So the same is about the journalists. They don't respect any names like press or other things. They just attack anybody they see.
And tell me, Victor, do you think that, some of the media here are reporting that the Russians have been regrouping and changing their strategy after they've had a fairly unsuccessful war so far? Over the weekend, we saw 2 mayors being kidnapped. And indeed, we've spoken to somebody, a resident of Kherson this morning, saying that their city is being encircled and that they're trying to impose a referendum and see if it could be annexed into Russia. Do you think that Russia is making some gains in Ukraine?
Well, for the moment, actually, we don't see any military success of Russia. of Russians. Well, they captured for sure some cities, because we cannot make defense on all around Ukraine. We have a huge border of 2,000 kilometers with Russia, so we cannot protect any meter of Ukraine. So we do maneuver defense. So we put forces at the place we can create a big damage for them. But the question is that Russians are not looking for the possibility to occupy Ukraine, and for sure they will do some things like small republics or other bullshit normally they are doing. But the question is that they already do not put on military victory. They are starting war against civilians. They want to win a war and to make us to agree on their demands because of the big humanitarian catastrophe and crisis. That's why our president all the time asking to close the sky from their airplanes, because with their land forces they are not able to move. But with the air forces, they create a huge damage for civilians.
Victor, you know that is such a complicated situation to get a solution to that no-fly zone. But what I'd like to say to you is this. What would you say to the West? What would you say to NATO? Here we have missile strikes 35 miles from Poland, right? Last night coming in, targeting the supply chain to Ukraine. What if one of those goes over a border? What would you say to... Is it a situation where it's not if NATO becomes involved, but when NATO becomes involved?
I have a very short message for NATO and for the West. The biggest problem is that you fear of Putin, but not Putin fears of you. And this should be changed, because Putin goes as far as he can when he sees fear. It means that he is provoked by your fear, but not by your strongness. If he got a good strong reply in 2014, for sure he would not intervene today. But if you cannot stop him today, tomorrow he will be in Poland and in Baltic states. It's the obvious thing. Your fear provokes Putin, not your strong reply.
Okay. Interesting. Victor Andrusiv, advisor to the Minister of Internal Affairs. I don't know if you've been with or hiding with President Zelensky, but we wish you all well, and thanks for giving us your time this morning.
Very interesting words. Your fear provokes Putin, but not your actions. And but think of that escalation. Your views on that at GB News.